Okay, we are live.
Good to be live with you.
Yeah, man. I'm chatting with none other, or a scholar, a gentleman, and a legend, none other than Dr. Steven Gullan. Dude, thank
Oh,
you.
absolute pleasure. There's just one thing that's missing there from that intro. Somewhere there's got to be a friend. Eh?
Oh yeah, I was going to get into that. Just before we went live, just for the viewer and for the listener out there, I was just chatting to the good Dr. Gullan, saying that I've been meaning to have this discussion for so long, and all cards on the table. I have been privileged enough to have gone through life dynamics training. At that stage, it was called Gateway Genesis. Now I think it's called Gateway Advanced, and then eventually did the Revelations, which for the listener and the viewer out there is really like a 5 or 6 day silent retreat, which you really go deep and fast. And uncover some real truths and make huge shifts, which we'll touch on, Stephen, as we rock and roll. But thank you for your time.
Absolute
I know
pleasure.
I've already asked you, but I'm going to ask you again, just for the live. How are you?
Yeah, great. Absolutely fantastic. There's so many pros and cons to the situation that we're in, and it's given me a wonderful opportunity to spend some of the time that I've wanted to allocate to writing and researching and doing some of the things that I'm really excited and switched on about in life. So, yeah, I'm on fire. I'm absolutely on fire, and life's great. Thank you.
I'm so glad you used the word fire, because I remember walking on fire with you.
That's dude, spectacular. Love that.
Yes, totally awesome. So, look, I mean, I expected no other response from you, and I think and I know we spoke earlier that I think it's a totally great time to be alive. But before we jump into all of those bits and bobs, I wanted to just touch on your backstory. Like who are you? Where did you come from? And how did you get to this point? And I'll just let you wax lyrical and take it from there.
Look, I'm a pretty ordinary middle class a guy. I grew up in Johannesburg, South Africa, and I had a couple of difficulties and challenges in my life. My parents were divorced when I was 5 years old, and my mother had a severe drinking problem, and I lived with her. I was fortunate enough to go to boarding school when I was about 9 years old, and spent most of my early days in a fabulous boarding school, basically living with my friends and learning to love reading. So it was a great opportunity. But it really opened me up to the dichotomy in life. That is, there's so much love and there's so much beauty, and relationships are so precious, and the people that are close to me were really important to me. Including my mom. We had a fantastic friendship, despite the fact that she drank too much. And at the same time, all this beauty and joy, but there was a hardship and an underlying struggle and a suffering that seemed to underpin my experience of life. And it seemed to awaken inside of me a real curiosity about who I am and how life works, and how come this person that was so close to me and so dear to me struggled so much in life, although that she was a genuinely loving, beautiful, kind, giving, warm, nurturing person. How come bad things happen to good people? And these kind of questions, they started off inside of me. They've always been there. There's never been a day that I can look back and go, I wasn't asking and inquiring and investigating and playing with what's life and what's it about.
Yeah.
So there were some difficulties and some high points and some beautiful times, like most people's childhoods, I imagine. And when I was about 11 years old, I got into martial arts, and I just fell into it. And I felt like I'd come home, like there was some place in my spirit and deep inside me that recognized this, and I kind of unpacked it for myself what it was. It wasn't the violence or the punching or the actual fighting aspect of it.
Yeah,
it was this dignity and integrity and building of character and moral virtue as a strength and a foundation for living, as a way of living, that it kind of, I also got interested in meditation and began an internal journey that I've been busy with my whole life. And, that journey, there's no end to, fortunately.
No.
So I think that I've always been interested in personal growth, if that's a word. I never had that as a word as a child, but just what am I? What's life about? How does it work? And I've just been open to that my whole life. There's never been a time that I haven't. And so that being my most keen interest, my front of mind passion my whole life, whenever I kind of had an opportunity to explore that anywhere in life, I jumped at that opportunity. So I've spent my whole life learning and exploring and studying. I've studied formally and informally. I've got a master's in ministerial counseling, psychological counseling, and I've got a PhD, a doctorate in philosophy. So I'm just hugely, passionately, keenly interested in what we are and what life's about, and it's thrilling for me. It's absolutely exciting. So
one of
that's
the
really
things,
how I started.
one of the things that you touched on that I thought was quite interesting is when we did one of the courses with you, you spoke about the samurai and how they teach their young men or boys to like their walk is their signature, or their signature is their walk, or something, and how they teach them to walk, but then to walk again. Would you say that through
I'll just tell you what that was quickly.
Please. Yeah, I'm probably cocking it up. So.
No, it's all good. It's not. It's a thing. You got it. I suppose we should be careful about that, just teaching their boys part, because that takes a long way. But it's to teach their children, and basically it is that they taught their children to walk twice. The first time that they learned to walk, it was the same way as all children learn to walk. Basically, standing up, falling down, trying to stand up and falling down until you don't fall down anymore. Basically, how children learn. So I've had a couple of children. I've got 2 beautiful kids. I watched them learn to walk. And so they learn to walk by themselves, and that process is falling over a lot. And then later on, they teach them to walk a second time. And this time, they teach them to walk with dignity and poise and elegance. And they say that a person's walk is their signature in motion, and that you can see a person's character in the way that they hold themselves and express themselves. So that was jumping in there. Sorry.
But look, thank you. I mean, the story comes from you. I was just sort of trying to remember, and thank you so much for repeating it. I find what you touched on the one hand, you see these people that carry themselves with poise and grace and dignity. Could you argue that someone who is not having a great time in life, in their mind, that it shows up in their body and it's visible in their walk? Would you say that that's true?
Absolutely. It's we've had all the research into body language and what body language tells us, and what we can learn from other people in terms of body language. But the link between our psychophysiological system, our psychology, our internal system, our thoughts, how we're representing the world to ourselves, the metaphors that we use, the language we use inside, and how we carry ourselves and how we express ourselves and present ourselves. There's a huge tie between these two, and it's not without horrific kind of military kind of training. Or actors, of course, to often. Can you separate this, because it's so hardwired into us? We are organisms, holistic organisms, and so we can't separate the way that we think from what we're saying, or how we're saying it. And they're small tells. Now, they're tells. You can tell something about someone by the way that they are moving or expressing themselves. And it's even now they've done research, and they found that there are the level amount of serotonin in somebody who is feeling confident or is successful is different to the amount of serotonin in someone who isn't successful or feeling confident. And so that changes the way that they hold their bodies, and that research has actually been put in. I'm a huge fan of, am I allowed to mention authors?
Oh, please,
say whatever
yeah.
I want. Yeah,
wax lyrical, man. You can swear, you can do whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I've been going through a bit of I was traveling a lot for the last 2 years. I've been to 20.
I noticed. I was very jealous, just by the way.
Good. That super opportunity. Lovely time in my life. And one of the places I was at is I was on a small island in the Indian Ocean called Mauritius. Beautiful paradise. And I just bumped into an English chap, and I was chatting with him, and he threw a name at me, someone that I wasn't actually familiar with. And I had seen the name, but I hadn't listened to any of the stuff. And I just grabbed one of his books at the airport, and I read it. This 12, Dr. Jordan Peterson.
Oh, yeah. Love the guy. I follow him. I listen to his podcast all the time. Yeah. So 12 rules for life. 12 rules for life.
That's absolutely great. Fantastic. He's busy writing another book now. I'm super excited for when it comes out. But the first chapter of that is on lobsters and backbone, and that's the serotonin in the body and how that affects that people stand and where they are in the hierarchy of society and so on. In terms of the conversation that we're having here, there's even the physiological mechanism whereby the body releases different chemistry and will therefore show different behavior and different standing and so on, from an internal state, from what you're thinking and how you feel about yourself and so on. So we're holistic. We're organic, holistic, animals, creatures, beings, and this is not out there esoteric new breakthrough knowledge. It's just more and more being discovered as we become less trapped by the taboos of the past's medical and scientific historical narrative, and free ourselves a little bit from that, and we start to discover that our internal world is very closely linked to our external world.
Oh yeah, I think the whole thing of we interpret our world through our mind, right? So anyway, like you're much better articulating this stuff, but I wanted to segue, Steven, into so we've spoken about body language and stuff, and obviously nowadays where we are, and just to timestamp this conversation, we're in the middle of a pandemic where we actually cannot physically be around many people, so those tells aren't as visible, but there are other ways to, I guess, at a broad strokes level, identify where people are at collectively. And you did a really great job in a recent YouTube video that you recorded where you basically unpacked your observation about the various stages that people were going through, and probably still are going through in some way, shape or form. Do you want to just double down on that, what you've seen to date, and where you see it going based on the trends that you've identified?
Look, we're going to have a conversation here for a couple of days if we start that. not only because it's such a fascinating. It's really where we are.
Fascinating. It's fascinating. Yeah, I agree.
It's terrifying, but at the same time, it's absolutely exhilarating because the possibilities that it opens up are tremendous. It's unexplored, new, brand new, unknown, blank canvas. It's absolute blank canvas stuff. So
well, I mean, and I can feel your excitement because, dare I say this, and I hope to not put you on the spot, but it sort of forced you to go online in a way that you've never done so before. And so it's opened up a whole new world for you. It's forced me to, because this project was lying dormant and I'd been wanting to do this for such a long time. And it forced me to say, hey, actually, I still want to speak to people. Why don't I just record it? And so, it's exhilarating, like you say, but like you summarized it so well that I actually shared it in another video. I've been sharing it ever since.
Steal it, take it. It's yours. We just want to get it out there.
So yeah, wax lyrical, man. Tell
Yeah.
us what you saw, or tell us what you're seeing.
When as the pandemic hit people, I just saw that everything immediately split into the same separation, polarization. That it's a pattern that happens everywhere through life. People choose sides. They choose sides because they identify with one side, and then they become somebody. They feel they are somebody when they express that view, that side. And it's not just the topic. It's their perspective of their topic, their feelings about their topic, how they identify with their topic. And so a lot of it is their actual identity. And they invest some of, we human beings invest some of our identity, who we are, in the things we agree with or align ourselves with and go with. So you had a phenomena that I speak about on my programs and in my educational courses, and there's the polarization that people have. Immediately what happens is we have to choose sides. As something happens, people choose sides immediately. So we had those people that were straight into the positive side. And all of a sudden, it was like a call to the world's motivators. It was every company, it was like every company's coach's dream opportunity. They just dived in there, and they had their slogans, and they had their productivity challenges, and
productivity porn.
Yeah,
that's what I call it. Productivity porn. Oh my god! Look how productive I am. Sorry,
it was scary.
Sorry, anyone out there that's watching, listening? Yeah.
And you know. Not bad. That's not it. The problem is, we can't judge it.
But it's interesting.
We want to observe who we are and how we operate, so that we can be empowered instead of judge how we are, because then we have a wrong part and a right part. And when there's a wrong part, we're disempowered in some way.
Amen, brother.
Where if we can just observe ourselves, and without that judgment, we can learn a whole lot. And I also would like to just extend that if we could observe the people around us, particularly when things are difficult in arguments or disagreements or conflicts or just different perspectives. We have different perspectives. I see and if we could be less judgmental and more open and just observe, really just observe and be with it, we would learn a whole lot about ourselves. And
absolutely.
I think we all know that. So I noticed straight away this polarized. The people that were just pulled out of their hats. They were fantastic things. It was like this is God's answer to the environment. This is, and we had like fake news pictures. I was in Venice. I was actually in Venice in September last year, and then they started posting pictures of dolphins in the canals. In Venice. And I was like, no. This is not. It's a lovely picture and it's a beautiful thought, and I'm all for it. I love dolphins. Actually, people to swim with wild dolphins. For many years. So I'm like a dolphin soul. I'm like, I love it. But it just came out the woodwork. There's just all the funky stuff from dolphins in the canals in Venice to I saw a lovely meme. I live in Johannesburg in South Africa, and so there's a huge national reserve, game reserve, and I saw a photo of the African bush with lions and wildebeest, and then there was the Eiffel Tower in the background. And I was like, the environment has cleared up so much. We can see the Eiffel Tower from Johannesburg. So this is the kind of. So there was everybody else for it, and it's important. It's important to keep your spirit up. It's important to laugh at things and make light of it and find the good in difficult situations.
I love the South African humor. Like it's I look for, so for the listener or the viewer out there, I'm based in New Zealand at the moment, and the Kiwis are great, but the South Africans have an ability to just go there with the humor, man. So thank you for the memes. Whoever makes them, thank you for the memes.
Exactly. All those beautiful designers, all those guys. Listen, if you're at home in lockdown anywhere in the world and you're a graphic designer, pump out those memes, because you're making people's lives better for it. Yeah, so we split into this in the polarization between the positive side and then, of course, the negative side. And there were the skeptics and the conspiracy theorists and this is the beginning of the end, or the end of the world, and all the negativity and the hard down trend and cynicism and anger and resentment that people hold and carry seem to surface through this. And so we saw this polarization, and this is a phenomenon that just happens everywhere. So we can observe how people are through their behavior, because that's kind of the tip of the iceberg. If you imagine there's an iceberg, and underneath the water there's 90%, and above the water is that small 10% that shows out. What do you know about me? Where do you see me? How do you encounter me? How do you know who I am, or authentically, deeply, at a deeper level? Like, who am I, and how do we connect, and what's meaningful in life? And the only thing you can see is my behavior, and how I wear my hair's behavior, the way clothing that I wear, whatever. It's all behavior. Yeah. And so people see behavior and they judge the behavior instead of seeing the behavior and observing the behavior and learning or becoming expanded or connected from that behavior.
Yeah.
So we had this opportunity to notice this very normal and natural and fascinating aspect of our humanness, this need to pick sides and need to be a right side and a wrong side and a good side and a bad side.
Yeah.
And look, I think that the sooner we kind of get to the point of emotional maturity and not have to pick sides, and I mean not we, when I say I and listeners and all people as individuals, not we collectively, but we as individuals, as soon as I can get to a point where I don't have to judge the COVID-19 pandemic as bad or negative or wrong or evil or cataclysmic or any of these strong negative judgments. But at the same time, I don't have to judge it as, the great gift to humanity, the most wonderful opportunity that human beings have had over the last, however many 100 years, because I don't think a pandemic is a huge opportunity for people. It doesn't make sense to me that a massive crisis that causes a tremendous amount of pain and turmoil and chaos is a golden opportunity for people. Many people are not going to come out of this in a better position than they went into it. So there's no point picking the good side and the bad side. What we've got to realize, and the sooner we do realize it, the sooner we can start to deal with the reality of the situation, is there are pros and there are cons. There are elements that are extremely difficult and challenging, and both now, they were in the past, pre-going into COVID. There were aspects of our world and our society and ourselves and our businesses and so on that were not the way we wanted them, or they were ineffective or destructive or whatever. And there was room for improvement. I think we all know that. And so as soon as we can stop evaluating and judging, we can hold both sides.
Yes.
And when we can hold both sides, the positive and the negative, then we can navigate ourselves through it instead of trying to find the way that makes us feel good. Like, we all want to feel good, so we want good news. Otherwise, we want to feel angry and vindicated by having the bad news.
Yeah.
So all the people that are pessimistic, they feel vindicated. Like, oh, you see, I told you this is right.
Yeah, it's reinforced.
Yeah, absolutely. And they feel better because they can let it out, and they can let the anger out and resentment and all the stuff that they felt. So they feel better. And of course, people that are into the good stuff feel better. This obviously is the good stuff. It's supposed to make you feel. But I know my work, a lot of my work is around separating our feelings from what has to happen in life. Our feelings from what we have to do in life. Because if you're up to important work in life, if you're up to relevant work to life, if you're making a difference and contributing, you're going to be challenged. And it's probably most likely to say that the bigger the contribution you make and the bigger the difference and the bigger the impact you make, the greater the challenges you will face. And when you face those challenges, the same thoughts and feelings will come up for you and me and every human being, because these are the same thoughts that come up for everybody in a difficult situation. They are the thoughts, shall I give up? Is this really what I want to do? I'm not sure if I'm equipped for the job. It's too much. These are the kind of things that every person studying for a degree feels. These are the kind of person that everybody who's having a tough time in their job feels. Is this my career choice? Is this the organization I really want to invest myself in? These are the thoughts and feelings that come up inside of everybody when they're having a hard time. Yet, what differentiates the people that really succeed in life at a high point and they're performing at a high level, they're the people that are doing it regardless of how they feel.
Yeah.
You know, I go to gym every day. I like to train, and if there's a downside to the whole pandemic in my life, I can put the pros and the cons on a kind of a spreadsheet, and the cons there at the top of the cons will be, I'm not going to gym. That's like a big conflict.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I love about gym is it's really honest. It's really honest.
Yeah.
Because you can't buy a good body at the supermarket. You can't. It's sweat equity. It's really honest.
Literally, it's literally
exactly
sweat
what
equity.
you get out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It teaches you the ethic of hard work. It's straightforward. There's no lying. There's no pretending. And at the same time, you have to overcome the small victory. It's a small victory every single day, because there's times, for everybody who does something that they're passionate about, there's times that they don't feel like doing it. And so there's times I don't feel like going to gym. There's times I'm tired. I work. I've got lots of work to do. I want to spend time with my family. Whatever the reason is, there's times I don't feel like going there. And the thoughts that come up with I don't feel like going there are the thoughts, I should prioritize other stuff, or I can do it tomorrow, or those kind of thoughts come up, and then I just have to take myself to gym. Now, I'm not really regardless. Absolutely, because it's not how I feel or how I think. It's about a commitment that I made to myself that this is the way I'm going to live my life. This is the kind of person I am, and I get to be who I am. Those small victories every single day. But now I'm not speaking about gym. I'm speaking about finances. I'm speaking about relationship. I'm speaking about career. Because the only reason people don't save money is because they feel or they think they can't do it. They can't cut this. They'd rather spend that. And it's not about how we feel. It's about the action that we take. And so if we could translate what I'm saying into every day, into the areas of life, the specific area of life that's important to you, then you'll find that if you just do what you know is right, you do what you committed to and said you would do. If we do that, then we get to live with ourselves as certain people. Personal integrity.
I want to add to what you're saying. There are two quotes, and I hope I remember them well. The first is, and I heard this from a businesswoman. She says, "How you do one thing is how you do everything." So that was a great quote. And then, look, I've got two daughters, and so naturally, I've been watching Frozen. I love the soundtrack. I'm not ashamed to say it, and I sing it at the top of my lungs a lot of the time. But there's one track towards the end where Anna sings a song that I think is called "Do the Next Right Thing."
Yeah.
So every moment in life gives us an opportunity, based on our moral compass and what we know to be truth, is to do that thing.
Yeah.
And man, there's so many deep sort of nuggets in that little film, or maybe it's because I'm a meaning-making machine and I'm looking for them. But those two sayings is how you do one thing is how you do everything, and then do the next right thing.
Yes.
is really just it's that's it, And so in your case, to get to the gym example, is that's just what you're going to do. You're going to do the next right thing, and that's hop in your car, get to the gym, or run to the gym, or whatever it is,
or save money. Or make in the date night that you agreed with your wife or partner with once a week, every week, or get up and go to work when you're feeling sick instead of phoning in and making a doctor's appointment. It's not the gym. It's everything that we say that we committed to in life, and what prevents us from getting there. Absolutely, because that's all we have is what we say. All we have to ourselves is what we say, and we look at the things that are important to people, and we start to see that most of it's man-made. For example, the constitution of marriage. I don't see, I love animals. I go to the game park, like I mentioned, and I never see married, wedding rings on the lions, or wedding rings on, on the fence, on the buck. They don't get married. That's a human invention.
It is.
Yeah, and let's take a look. Let's take a look at where it happens. Where does the act of marriage happen? I suppose it happens in the two of us getting together, me and my partner, and saying, "I love you, I care for you," and that's expressed in language. I love for you, I care for you.
Yeah.
And then that progresses to a point of verbal commitment. I want to be with you. I want you to be with me. I want it just to be us. I want our relationship to be made like this, of these kind of, rules or setup or agreements. And then later on, it's like, will you marry me? You should be on your knee with a nice ring and for the champagne and rose, at least. And she says, or he says yes. And then you go to the church or the mosque or the temple, the synagogue, or wherever it is that you go. And there you say yes. And this all happens in language. Yes. And the whole of the relationship, the whole of the marriage, everything, the whole human aspect of it, that which differentiates human marriage from animal relationships, is the way we speak about it and what we say about it. And it all comes down to two words: I do. That's it. That's all you have to say, and there you are. But then there's the keeping your agreement part. And that's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And it goes through difficulty, as all things in life has ups and downs. Or people's careers, or people's finances, or people's health, or people's emotional states. It's the human condition. We have ups and downs. It's being alive. The only time you flatline is when you're in the ground.
It's when you're dead.
Until then, it's ups and downs. So how come after 30 years, someone is still married? It's not that they didn't go through crisis. It's not that they didn't have extremely challenging moments. And it's not even that at some point that one of them didn't want to leave, or both of them didn't want to leave. Because if you're around someone, it doesn't matter how much you love them or care for them, and you're not committed to them, after any period of time, 10, 20, 30 years time, those thoughts and feelings are going to come up when things get difficult. And the thing that keeps people there is they keep their word. They follow through there on the commitment. And that's what we have, our word. And if we can stand on what we say, if we can be true to what we say, we're suddenly completely different to everybody else. We're not an anybody. Anybody can do what they feel. And that's what anybody does. Everybody does something, and then when it gets difficult, it doesn't feel like a good idea anymore, and then they do something else.
Yeah.
And anybody does what they feel, and anybody does what they think, but not anybody does what they say. It just follows through on that. And that a lot of that is really the foundation of the work that I do. But it's done not through a conversation. It's through some specialized process of experiential learning, where that is embedded in us as people, as beings, beyond just intellectual knowledge and grasping of the idea. But we need that intellectual pinpoint, underpin, and that is our word. That's what we've got.
Just for the listener and for the viewer out there, just want to touch on what Steven said. And absolutely, there's experiential, highly charged emotional introspection that happens within the programs that still today, I revisit them. Like one of the things in one of the programs that you do is you set a context for the day. I won't give away any of the detail, but like that is something that I still do. I even took one of the context, I think could have been the final day of that silent retreat. Something about I commit that I may experience the full enjoyment of life. I turned that into an affirmation. Like one of the affirmations was, I'm going to forget it now, but I'm relaxed, I'm confident, I'm positive. I treat my body with respect, I feed it correctly, and I exercise my body that I may experience the full enjoyment of life. So I sort of married that all together. Just, I still hold onto that today. And that doesn't just happen, it's like through that sort of transformational piece that you talk about. I feel like we whizzed into something deep and fast, which is what I love. But I just want to double back quickly on the on something that you touched on about the observation of of ourselves and others through this time. And I want to tell you a quick story. So when this thing first happened, without even knowing it, like I got itchy and scratchy, within the house, and it was towards the evening, and my partner and I were trying to figure stuff out because we run our own business and we've got 2 kids and we're living in this place called New Zealand. We don't have immediate family nearby, and so it's like, how does this whole thing work, right? And I was getting itchy and scratchy, and before, if I was itchy and scratchy, she would and I hope she doesn't mind my saying this, but I'm just going to say it, like she would come back at me with being itchy and scratchy, and so we'd be itchy and scratchy together, and then we'd make up, and we'd move on, right?
I love that words, by the way, itchy and scratchy. I just want to say it's a great label to put on it,
because that's all it is. Because I was itchy and scratchy about where we had found ourselves. I felt like the government and the people of the day that are in charge were telling me what to do. And if there's one trigger that I have, it's like, don't tell me what to do. Don't fucking tell me I've got to do this and that and the next thing. And Pippa, my partner, turned around and said to me, I understand what you're going through. Just in a calm moment. Yeah. And it just diffused me. And in that moment, there was like a mirror right in front of me, like where I could literally see, wow, okay, so this is why I'm itchy and scratchy. Thank God that she responded in that way so that I could see it for what it is. And thank God it happened at the beginning of this time, because each time I've been able to catch myself, just through that observation, because she didn't have judgment towards me. Absolutely. Right? That's what I wanted to say. There was no judgment. It was like, I see you, and I know why you're feeling the way you're feeling, because the freedom, something that you've enjoyed before, is now being ripped from you, and you're trying to make sense of it. Yeah. And I hope that other people have had a similar awakening, but that was one that I'm so grateful happened right at the beginning. And I'll hold on to that for a long, long time.
And it's a skill. It's something that probably happens to most people, but they may not have the be able to step back long enough to notice what happened. You clearly have, because you've been able to articulate it. So it's something you've thought about, maybe even spoken to people about, and now articulate it here for the whole world to hear. So just in case you haven't spoken to people about it. So, it's really great, because it distinguishes the judgment, the automatic judgment. It's a really automatic. That's, as something happens, we kind of need to see where we stand in terms of that. Do we stand for it or against it? Is it harmful for us or advantageous for us? And we need to align ourselves with that as fast as possible. It's a cognitive, unconscious cognitive process that just happens for people. And so this judgment happens very quickly. And yes, it's very useful deciding whether to cross the road or not, and there's a truck coming, and deciding not to cross the road. But it's not so practical when in a relationship somebody's itchy and prickly from an external source, and then that sparks off itchy and prickly on both partners. Exactly what you're saying. Instead of judging, we can attend to the person. We can observe the person and attend to the relationship.
Attend,
attend instead of judge, and that's really what we can distinguish there: judging and attending.
Well, I like it as well, because it has an offshoot word, which is attention, right? Yes. So you pause, you be present, you give it attention, and you attend, which means, basically screw everything else. This is obviously important to you. I'm going to observe, and let's do that.
And it's one of the greatest gifts we can give to people. I'm a parenting expert, and I run educational courses on parenting and skills on parenting in schools, one-on-one, in groups mostly, and so it's really about being able to hear what the other person's saying, be able to put aside your feelings for that moment, and be able to attend to the child in the context of parenting. But it works just the same in relationship, because we have to attend to the relationship and attend to a higher value our love and care for each other and the life that we're designing together with each other versus this immediate discomfort, whatever it is, and we may not even be sure whatever it is that made us itchy and scratchy in the moment, or the issue at hand. It's small and irrelevant given the context of the relationship.
It's like the tip of that iceberg that you speak about.
Yeah. Right. In my relationship with my partner, right in the beginning, I said, we're going to be together for the rest of our lives, and so it's obvious that we're going to have disagreements because I see the world a certain way, and you'll see the world a certain way, and just by virtue of where I'm sitting, you can see behind me there's nothing. There's just a clean wall.
Yeah.
And behind you, there's a beautiful candle. Looks like a nice smelly incense thing. Got a Conscious Men project in there. And so if I'm looking at you, it looks like the room you're in is really cozy, kind of like evening time, homey. It smells good from here. And mine looks a little. I look at mine and it's a little more clinical and a little more like cold. But we could end up in an argument about which room we're actually in, just by virtue of our perspective, the way I'm seeing it and the way you're seeing it. And so it's not that there's something, that arguments or disagreements indicate something wrong with the relationship. It's only that arguments and disagreements indicate we are individuals still, and we have unique outlooks and inlooks on life. And that's what we find beautiful about each other, I suppose.
On that piece about perception, and it's something that you said before in the course, one of the courses that we did, it was just a room, 4 walls, right? And the experiences that people had in those rooms, just the room, each one was different. And when you articulated it in that way, I can't remember what we were doing or why we were doing it, but like that stuck with me, because through life, like, this is my perception of the space, and that's someone else's and someone else's, and so we're all the center of our own universes, and just to tie this back into the attend piece with non-judgment, when someone does have a strong opinion, whether that's tightly or loosely held, it's based on their perception. Right. Yeah. And so it's the onus is on the person who is more conscious in that moment to be accommodating.
Absolutely.
And that's because all of us wax and wane. There are times when I'm super unconscious and I'm just being a duos, right? To use a nice South African word. And the other moments where I'm like, hey man, I could be like a guru, like doing all this awesome stuff. And I don't get there very often, by the way. But it's something nice to strive towards. But
I thought you meant you didn't get to the downside very often.
No. I know what that looks like. But I choose to look up. If we're gonna distinguish between what's good and bad and up and down. But yeah, it's super interesting how it's all just our perception, man. I learn something new every single day just through that process, and also watching social media. Now, I know that I asked you a question, and we've covered so much ground already. I'm looking at the time. We've already been doing this for 44 minutes, believe it or not.
I put my phone on so I could see the time, but it turned off.
I wanted to just touch on some of the other trends that you've seen. That people can become, and through that people can become more aware of, so as to avoid judgment, and also some other pitfalls through this process, to be gentle, I guess, on themselves and others.
I think that one of the things that I'm experiencing now, and it's something that I think I'd like to be honest enough to say that it's something that I personally have gone through. Not only do I notice it with other people, but it's something that I've noticed that I've personally gone through with regards to the corona pandemic, and the subsequent lockdown in South Africa. I believe New Zealand's also pretty tightly locked down. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
The Prime Minister, is she called the Prime Minister?
Yeah, the PM. Just in the
She's getting a lot of accolades and a lot of acknowledgement and appreciation for her stand that she's taken.
Mm-hmm.
And we're hearing that from South Africa because we're in a really tight military-style lockdown where the army is on the streets and the lockdown is being enforced very strongly.
Okay.
And so, like you said, you're the kind of person who doesn't like to be told what to do.
Yeah. I think you're the same. I think you're the same.
In fact, one of the things that I cover on the Gateway, my introductory course, is that we're all like that. Human beings, we can't stand to be dominated. No human being can stand being dominated from long. And you can see that in a child that's punished by their parents and simply for their size, they can't do anything. How does the child get back at the parent? Well, they sulk. They go around the house all unhappy. You know, I'll show you how unhappy you've made me. How hurt you'll suffer because you can see how much I'm suffering. Because we human beings hate to be dominated, and this is something that comes out in parenting. It's something that comes out in management skills. You can control and command. You can have an organization that's hierarchical based and strongly hierarchical based, where it's command and control, but they're going to resent it. And out of resentment, there's going to be pushback, or there's going to be some subtle form of passive or active resistance. Absolutely. And that's the same thing that happens with children, and it's the same thing that happens in the dynamic with all human beings. So it's something that we can notice. And I noticed that about myself because I really don't. You know, I grew up a bit of a rebel. So the things happened to me. I was very angry. I went through a very, very angry stage in my life into my mid-teens, and you get mischievous and naughty kids, and then you just get the ones that the horrible ones. I ended up horrible for a couple of years, and until I really noticed that about myself, and so I really don't like being told what to do either. And this lockdown came down, and one of the things I noticed is that people don't want to be treated in the way that they're being treated.
Sure.
And they resent it.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
They resent it. They resent not being part of the decision-making process, and understandably why they can't be part of the decision-making process. It would be, I just don't think it would work to do a referendum, a poll on whether the country should lock down or not, in terms of a time frame and so on. But it would probably be the most fair thing if England does a poll to leave, to do Brexit, to leave the EU. That's a major decision that the country makes, and I suppose the way of handling the corona pandemic is of the scale that it certainly deserves, everyone's engagement.
Yeah,
but we can understand why countries and governments have not had time to even pursue that path. So people resent having not been part of the decision-making process, having it placed upon them authoritarianly, and then having to go along with it, and so on. Now, if they're carrying inside of themselves this resentment and anger, and they can't do anything about it, unfortunately, a very, very subtle, horrible thing happens. Inside of them, a small part gives up. Inside of us, a small part resigns ourselves to the current situation, because if there's nothing we can do about it, we have to give into it. And it's a subtle psychological switch that impacts all areas of life, because we're holistic, as I've said several times, and you can't give up on one part of life and have it not affect other areas of life. It's the same as if you win at sports, you go out and you feel like a winner, and you take that winning
elsewhere. Into your workplace or into your relationship. So that's it has far-reaching ripple.
Absolutely. It's organic, it's holistic, it spreads everywhere. So one of the fundamental precepts in the programs that I run is simply that I don't believe that it's possible for a human being to have a major significant area of life not working. Not working means it's not the way you want it to be, or it's perhaps dysfunctional even.
Yeah.
Maybe someone's finances are struggling financially, or they're not saving how they feel they should save, or they're disillusioned in their job, or whatever the situation is. And then they can't go home and be perfectly happy 100% unaffected by the work environment, and vice versa. Someone who's struggling with a difficult divorce, their performance is going to be affected at work. And so this is not a good thing or a bad thing. It's not an evil, it's not right, it's not wrong. It's just the way human beings are. So if we recognize that we're oppressed, we're suppressed at some level, and we give up because there's nothing we can do, then we have to be very careful that doesn't creep into any other aspect or area of our life. And I've noticed that the initial climb in interaction around the whole coronavirus, the number of posts, the content, people's replies and responses has definitely shifted. And people are almost like trying to ignore social media because they're overwhelmed by it. The situation is overwhelming. There's nothing we can do about it. And so people are in a form of overwhelm.
Yeah.
And they're putting things on the side. They're sidelining. They're going, okay, I can save after this. I'll attend to my relationship after this. And it's like every good diet that's put off until Monday. It's just another Monday. It's it's a great justification for a most fantastic Monday. Yeah.
Every good diet that's put off until the 1st of January.
So one scary and very impactful thing is this submission, resignation, hopelessness that is sweeping through people. And I think one of the other things that I found quite interesting is, I don't know how public sentiment is where you are, and because social media and Facebook and so on shows me South African stuff for the most part.
Yeah.
Of course, overseas news and so on, but the people are mostly South African.
I think just to qualify what I'm seeing, I see a lot of cynicism coming through now.
Yes,
I think we've had enough time in this for people to be able to look back, and now with the benefit of time is hindsight, if I can call it that.
Yes.
And so people are getting into a state of judgment. What could have been done better? And I noticed that the opposing political party is absolutely using it as fuel for their, I guess, stance, against the current incumbent leaders and governments. So definitely a lot of cynicism, skepticism, questioning, and dare I say, a sort of a bubbling under the surface, some anger. I think 2 weeks ago, what was really apparent was, people were absolutely friendly in the streets and waving, and sort of had a skip in their step. And I'm conscious that I'm seeing this, right? So it's my perception as well, but I'm also doing my best to just observe and see what words are being used online,
absolutely,
and to try and sort of paint a picture for what's coming into my world.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was wanting to speak about and tell you is what I'm seeing. It's the grief process is moving from resignation and giving up into anger. And all the conspiracy theories are really being listened to by people. And I'm even seeing people who I've been Facebook friends with, I've worked with even closely for many, many years, 2 decades. And suddenly they're kind of going, I'm not the conspiracy kind of person, but I'm really questioning what the hell is actually going on here. At an international level as well as local decisions.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely a shift in terms of the consciousness of people who were very willing to be led, are now expressing that they are distrustful of where they've been taken to.
Yes.
And this underlines a massive movement in the entire world. people, I don't really want to get into politics, but we can take a look at the USA, the massive split with Trump. It's just a split between people. A similar thing happened in England with Boris Johnson, and Brexit. It's again this dividing issue, and this dividing issue.
It's just polarizing, like you said. At the head of this discussion is just, you've got to pick sides. You can't hold two opposing ideas equally, because that's mature.
Absolutely.
Or at least it takes some level of practice or enlightenment or whatever you want to call it. But I find it incredibly fascinating that a lot of people, and I include myself in this because I have to catch myself from time to time, but have strong opinions held loosely, right? And I'll say thank you to my mate Nick Haralambous who reminded me of that statement. But I've been holding it so near and dear to me throughout this period, because we are all so hungry for some level of truth, right, through what's going on, or information. But we got to, I feel like, and I say I've got to realize that I've got to be able to also let it go if it doesn't serve me anymore, or if it doesn't serve the situation. You know, holding on to something for dear life is like not taking a life raft from the Titanic because you're honorable, and there's a space for you. It's like, come on,
No, we've got to keep. That's a lot of people are question Darwin's theory of evolution, and I'm not promoting evolution. I'm not dispromoting evolution.
It's just a theory.
This is one of the most popular theories on earth. Evolution, and it's supposed to be underpinned by survival of the fittest, or survival of the strongest, or something of that nature. But it's really not. That's not what he was speaking about. What he was speaking about was the survival of the most flexible. System that's most flexible is the one that survives. The system that's most adaptive is the one that survives. That's why mammals survived, because they're new life, a relatively new life form to have evolved on the planet, and they were highly adaptive. And the dinosaurs have been like that for millions of years and unable to adapt to the situation. So we're going to have to adapt, and the ones that are going to survive are the ones that are most flexible and most adaptive. And so if we judge things and we then have an opinion or point of view on that thing, and then we have to protect that point of view, now we've got layer on layer on layer. We all have opinions. They come up naturally for us. Some of us know that they're just opinion, and that they may not be true, but they're an opinion that we're happy to hold as an hypothesis until it's proven incorrect, like scientific. Others have their opinion and don't know it's an opinion. I'm pretty sure because they think it's true, that means it's true. And this is one of the things about feelings. I'll take a very quick detour here, but one of the powerful things here in the programs that I run is that it doesn't matter if somebody makes you angry. It doesn't, just because you're angry, it doesn't necessarily mean the other person's wrong and you're right. And because it shows up for people that the more someone makes you angry, or me angry, the more wrong they are. Or the worse I feel, the more wrong they are. It's not connected. It seems connected, but it's not connected. So if we tease those things apart. Just because I think it's true doesn't mean it's true. Just because I feel angry, it doesn't mean the person's wrong. I may just be, being triggered from something in my past, or whatever the case may be. And so it's really part of growing up and maturing. But it's this being able to sidestep our judgments and deal with things the way they are. And I love that you're able to hold your opinions softly. Have strong opinions, but hold them softly.
Hold them loosely, and if things change, have a different opinion. Have a different opinion. I think I remember having done Gateway. You cover opinions so much. I still laugh at the word because it takes me back to that time. Not that I thought it was funny, but because I know that it's just an opinion. It's not it's your viewpoint, or it's someone's viewpoint, it's my viewpoint, and so we can work with it. It might be true, it might not be, but at least it gives me an insight into where I or someone else or a group of people are in that moment in time. And so that's what I feel like we've we've been able to talk about through what we've been observing on social media is I don't know what's truth. I don't know what's lies. I don't know if there's something in between. But what I know is that it's what's showing up is it's everyone's opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
absolutely. And some people back that opinion with medical facts, and other people back it with medical facts from exactly the opposite direction. So it appears that medical facts may not be, it just depends who's doing research and what sampling data.
Exactly right.
So
exactly right.
It's all opinion at some level, and so it's very uncertain. We have no certainty about the situation. We don't know the facts, and we don't know where the outcome, and there's no certainty in it. So if we're completely uncertain, it's very frightening. There's no safety. It's very insecure to live in an uncertain world. And so what we do unconsciously and automatically is we just come up with an opinion. That opinion then gives us certainty, and we hold on to that opinion and defend that opinion because that gives us some sense of safety, some sense of control, some sense of stability, and so on. But it may make us feel safe, but it doesn't actually make us safe.
Dude, you've summarized it so well, and I'm so glad we got to that point, because that's all it is. It's people wanting to have to feel safe. Is through that opinion, and then they'll look for that validation, whether it's a medical proof on this side, medical proof on that side, governmental proof on this side, just to validate it, and then they whatever it is, and then they feel, okay, I'm safe now. I can move on with my life. Look, I've kept you for over an hour already. I don't want to. It has.
I also agree with you.
I want to not end on something negative. I want to give you an opportunity to share what you see as the silver lining for people, without being too what I'm calling
blindly positive.
Yeah. So like what you see are the opportunities realistically that people could perhaps maybe consider embodying in their space at the moment. So go for it.
Yeah. I think that first thing we have to, and I speak for myself, and then I can express that and share it with other people. But the first thing I have to do, and the first thing we have to do, is we have to acknowledge the situation. And the situation is, it is uncertain. We don't know. And even the scientific and medical authorities are saying they don't know. They don't know when it's going to be over, how it's going to be over. They don't know how it really started, although they've got some ideas. They don't know whether a vaccine is in the pipeline, when it's in the pipeline, whether it's safe in the pipeline, and so on and so on and so on. And so basically there's no security. There's no security, and it's uncertain. So what this says is we don't know what tomorrow is going to look like. Yeah. That's the fact. Now, yes, that's frightening. We don't know what tomorrow is going to look like. But on the other hand, it's incredibly empowering, because if tomorrow doesn't look like yesterday, if tomorrow isn't an automatic repetition of yesterday, and next year isn't an automatic repetition of last year, then we really stand on a new possibility. Because if we don't know what tomorrow is going to be, then maybe tomorrow can be something new, something that hasn't been. Maybe tomorrow can be the beginning of a new world, a new way of relating to people, a new way of doing business, a new way of engaging with climate issues, a new way of dealing with our children, a new way of dealing with our humanity, a new way of answering the questions, the timeless questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What's it all about? How do I live my best life? A new way, because it seems that the ways of the past have brought us so far, that brought us to where we are. And where we are is more people are living a better quality life today than have ever lived that life in the world, in the past.
Yeah, amen.
I understand that there's lots of issues, there's been a lot of a cost. It's cost us environmentally, it's cost us a lot of costs, but there's pros and cons to everything.
Yes.
And so our technology and our philosophy of being, who we are as human beings, how we engage with our world, one another, nature, and so on, has brought us so far, but it cannot take us any further.
Yeah.
It's brought up these problems. It's created the problems that we face today, and it's not of the like Einstein said, the thinking of today is not the thinking of today. The type of thinking that's created the problems of the world today is not the type of thinking that can discover the solutions, because that's the kind of thinking that's come up with these problems, that's created that problem.
Yeah.
So we've kind of thought ourselves into a corner, into a block, and it's our thinking that keeps us there. It's our policies, it's our structure, it's our worldview, it's our
social agreements. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, tomorrow's new. It's absolutely open. It's a brand new open world. And it's a blank canvas. Now that's hell of an exciting. But at the same time, it's a pressure test. It's a real pressure test for people. Because right now, you're either going to sink back and accept what's ever given to you, or you're going to have to create something for yourself. And I know I'm saying you, but I'm really being specific, because I hope that anyone that listens to this can ask themselves the question, what can I do for myself that will make my life better? Because if you're slightly disgruntled or slightly disappointed or slightly insecure because all the power's out of our hands, out of your hands, my hands, then the question's really just how are you going to take your power back? And that's you may not be able to change the world. However, you can change your world. You can fix your finances, your small circle of influence, your home, your family, your community. And if you start there, if we all start there, then believe it or not, that's actually how the world changes. And there is this movement, this shift in consciousness that's kind of a reset. And a lot of economists are talking about a reset, an actual reset of the financial system on planet Earth. This is a cataclysmic global event that can only be likened to like World War I or World War II. And I suppose the blessing is that it isn't a volcano that's erupted, that's created a nuclear winter and frozen the whole world in half a second. It isn't a meteor that's come from outer space and crushed the Earth.
Yeah.
It isn't a
younger Dryas. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's tragic and it's horrific and people have died and it's traumatic and it's all that negative stuff. But our culture remains, our technology remains, and we have a world that's built and systems and technologies and processes that we can utilize to just jumpstart the world. We don't have to start from day one again, like Noah's Ark. Noah coming off the ark and start. I'm not speaking from a Christian. I'm not promoting anything or anything, but we're not starting from day one, like Noah coming off the ark and having a whole new world to do. We have technology, we have industry, we have economics, we have these processes, and they're going to survive this cataclysm. And we have the opportunity. We're not really. Majority of people are not under health risk. Yeah, I know this is probably the one thing I shouldn't be saying, but everybody knows that.
Watch out.
Watch out. I'm
just going to check the comments to see and make sure that no conspiracy theorist's going to hop and be like, well, actually.
very unfortunately, a very small fraction of people do die, and that is tragic. And if it was my mother who was dying, or my child, or my wife, it would be very different to, it's just a very small number of people.
Yeah, it makes it real. It makes it real.
Yeah. So I respect and I empathize with any life that's lost, and it's tragic. But it's a very small percentage.
Yes.
And I'm not being judgmental about it. It's just the way it is.
It's just the fact.
Absolutely. So most of us are going to really have a chance to start off a new life. And it's like starting. It's almost like Elon Musk.
I saw that. I was about to say that. Yeah. But also, he was in the news because he's actually just sold all of his homes.
Yes, I saw that yesterday, actually.
So talking, from a consciousness level, about the economics of it all. Like, here's a guy who's literally at the pointy end of everything, right? So, and he's actually saying, "Fuck it, I don't want possessions. Screw it. Next." and he carries huge influence, right? So
Absolutely.
if when other people see that, they're going to be like, so what else do I need to revisit that has been told me through my social programming and social agreement that I need to buy a house and have a mortgage? Yes, that's one way of living. That's one way of doing this thing called life. And so here you have this Elon guy who's putting people on Mars and Solar City and saying, actually, nah.
You don't have to live it. You don't have to live life the way you've been given it and the way you've been told to live it. This is the hope, the possibility, the plus side that coming out of a pandemic, a pressure point, a stress test on our planet and our stress test for our humanity. Coming out of this, it's a completely blank canvas. And what are we going to do to make it? If we're going to make it successfully, we're going to have to reinvent the way we do business. In fact, business has already been reinvented. I think that for most people, they're inside lockdown in their homes, doing business as best that they can, to the level that they can, but they're in their homes. And how I see it is, it's like Hurricane Katrina. Right now, we're huddled in the basement, and the hurricane is actually still happening. Only after the hurricane is over can we go outside and assess the real damage.
Yes.
So we aren't seeing the damage yet. The consequence, the definition of the word consequence, by definition, it's something that you can see after the event.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
We're not going to have the consequences. We can't see the consequences, and we can't engage or leverage or get anything, work through those consequences, because we're not seeing the consequences yet. We're still in the storm. And so a lot of people are burrowed down. They got their head, in the sand, trying to just survive the storm. And things are difficult for people. I understand people are even struggling for food sometimes. It's really, really difficult for many people.
Yeah.
And other people are losing businesses, and it's tragic. So they're stuck in the storm. They're stuck in the storm. And meanwhile, the world is changing. And I went to the supermarket, and I went to a mall that's close by. And the parking, where you normally push a button and get a parking ticket, that's gone. They've now just got a hand sensor. You just put your hand and it puts out the ticket. So technology's changed. People have come to market already. They produce the goods. It's in there. It's done. And this is happening everywhere. All businesses that are operating now are having to work inside of a changed environment. And there's some people, yourself, you like you said, this has pushed you to go digital.
Yeah,
it's given you that gentle nudge that you've always wanted to do it. I can speak for myself. I wanted to do it for many years, and I just haven't prioritized it. And this has forced me to prioritize it. And so now we're doing that.
Yeah, we're doing it. Look at us.
Absolutely, right now, and having fun.
Yeah, totally.
And hopefully bringing some value, guys.
Yeah.
And so it's a changed world, and the landscape is changing fast. And the people that are ahead of the wave, that recognize it's a changed world and are engaging in that changed world, asking questions like, what can I leverage in my business already? What products, skills, expertise, technology, networks, people, what can I leverage right now? They're going to be ahead of the curve. They're going to be ahead of the wave, because it's already changed. The world has already changed.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting. It's really exciting because it opens up business globally. It opens up communication globally. I'm in my home in South Africa. You're in your home, I think, in New Zealand.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. We're chatting, and people can watch us from all over the world. And the world has changed, and with this technology and with this change, people are listening in a new way. They're listening to what are the facts and who's got answers, and there's a possibility that someone can come up and produce answers. And the way that technology is spreading, and the way that messages and information is shaping the world is so fast and so rapid that if we think 200 years ago, it took 50 years for something to change the world. As some new technology, say democracy in the French Revolution, as democracy began in the French Revolution, it was 200 years before most of the world had democracies. And so it took 200 years for the world to change. Yet today, it's possible in the span of one lifetime, in 10 years.
Yeah.
With the technology and the way that the world is working and the pace that it's working, it's possible that the world can change. How long have we been in lockdown? Since January, February, March, April, May. 5 months. The world has changed.
Yeah.
But there's so much possibility. There's so much light at the end of the tunnel, and it's really in each of our spheres of influence and in each of our areas of concern, the areas that we're concerned about and that light us up and excite us in life. The question is, what can we do there, and how can we evolve? How can we adapt? How quickly can we be flexible? What can we leverage in ourselves, in our relationships, in our networks? The organizations are going to change. They're already speaking about spaghetti networks, where instead of you have one business, one building where everybody's centralized in that building, it's like spaghetti. It's everybody all over the world, and that shift already started with things like Fiverr and other outsourcing spaghetti networks, and that's just like taking off. It's the way of the future. It's all just opening up, and networks are going from businesses are going from command and control, hierarchical system to open systems.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting. It's really, really exciting. What you said is these are exciting times to be alive in, and they're really exciting times.
Yeah.
But there's an old Chinese verse, I believe.
It's also good to recognize that for anyone who's watching or listening, we've been speaking about social media and sort of as a litmus test or dipstick of where people are, to be really considered about curating your feed. Because I feel like this conversation with you, Steven, has energized me. It's just the act of talking with you, sort of vibing on a level. Right. And so whilst there is all the stuff that's happening around you and, the news and this, that, and the next thing, there's a great quote, and I'm probably going to cock it up again. I'm not very good at re-quoting people, but there was this great thing I heard. It's like, just when the news is telling you everything's bad or whatever, just go and have a conversation with your neighbor. And then you'll quickly realize that it's not all that bad. Or just take a moment and look at the birds and the trees or wherever you are, and just look. So I've appreciated this discussion. And before I let you go, I just want to shout out to all of the people that have commented. Wow, this is the most comments that I've ever gotten. Tammy Rhodes, Penny Nell, what's up, Pen? Shailene Kritzinger, Tammy again, Michaela, Arlette, Tammy again. Thank you for being part of this and adding value. Penny, you asked the question to say, will it be up? Yes, it will be. It'll be here for as long as Facebook lets us have it. I will download it.
Lucky I didn't speak about those things, eh?
yeah. But and last but certainly not least, please go ahead and do a shameless plug. Where can people find you, learn about you, hear more from you, engage you, and just learn from you? Absolutely.
So grab a pen and write down my website. It's www.lifedynamics, LIFEDYNAMICS, lifedynamics.co.za. Because I'm in South Africa, that's .co.za. And there you'll find contacts and you can get hold of me. Go to Facebook and befriend me there. It's Dr. Steven Gullan. Follow, like. I've got a YouTube channel, Dr. Steven Gullan, and I'm really getting active on that, and I intend covering a whole lot of stuff there, so go and take a look there too. Of course, I'm on Instagram also, Dr. Steven Gullan, and come and be in touch, get in touch. I'm busy completing a new book and program that we won't have time to chat about, but it's called Alpha Mind Dynamics, and that'll be released in about 4 weeks. So come and let me know who you are, and let me share some of my stuff with you. And it's all around what kind of amazing results you can create in your life and how you can kick ass.
Maybe we should do this again once your book is launched and you've given us some time to be in market. But you can. How do I get a copy? I'm assuming it'll be on.
Yeah, in about 4 weeks' time, it will be on Amazon, and it'll also be on Alpha Mind Dynamics, ALPH, Alpha Mind Dynamics, one word, alphaminddynamics.com.
It sounds like something I need to read.
Audio, 3 books, 3 audios, and it's really around. Just to give you a quick synopsis, it's
please,
it's around reprogramming our unconscious and subconscious. It's all the stuff that's been programmed into us, how we are, who we are, how we became who we are, what we're about, and how we can design that, and how we can literally program ourselves to become our best mentors, our best coaches. The best coach you can have is yourself if you're on your own team. The worst coach you can have is, we all know the worst enemy is the guy in your own head. And so it's really about onboarding your subconscious and you putting in all the programming. Some people are programmed for success. Some people are programmed for failure. Some people are programmed, to engage intimately at the level of conversation. Other people are a little more distant, a little bit more cold, or whatever the perception of it is. This is all programming, and it's all in there from our youth, from our upbringing, from our experiences, and it's very difficult to separate ourselves from this. And so often people try and do things, especially with willpower, try and give up smoking or go to the gym every day or work, finish the project I wanted to finish, and they struggle with that, and they kind of hold themselves to ransom and beat themselves up. And I tell you, I've done it. That's why I know it. And I've been working with thousands of people for 3 decades, and I see that this is the greatest challenge we all face is the person in the mirror, ourselves, that stops us or prevents us. And so if we can get that giant, it's kind of like, the way I see it is, did you ever see Mad Max, the Thunderdome, Beyond the Thunderdome? Anyway, it was Tina Turner was singing there. It was Mel Gibson. I think I'm revealing my age, but anyway.
No, I did see Mad Max, but I saw Fury Road.
That was the new one. Yeah. So the old one had this Thunderdome, this like MMA cage fighting thing, but they had a small like person and this gigantic big guy, and the small guy,
David and Goliath scenario.
But the small guy lived on his shoulders. And he was the brain. And the big guy was the fighter. And Mel Gibson had to fight them in the Thunderdome. This was the high point of the whole movie. This is what the subconscious is. The conscious mind is this little guy on the top of the shoulders who can give the directives and point the direction and tell the giant what to do. And the guy underneath the surface is the giant. That's our unconscious. That's our subconscious. That's what's beating our hearts. That's what's operating our memory. That's what's digesting emotion.
It's the biology. It's the biology.
Yeah, it's everything else.
It's like the observer. It's like the observer observing. Like that's what we need to get into. Yeah. So Alpha Mind Dynamics, take my money. Take my money.
With pleasure. Happy to share.
But seriously, I'd love to, once it's launched and once I've read it and digested it, would love to have another conversation where we can go deep and fast about that sort of thing, because like I'm a total fan of the whole programming thing around affirmations. I've done some hypnosis where I've done at night, listening, programming. I've recorded myself saying affirmations, going to sleep, and like it's made a huge impact. It's not noticeable, but when I look back over time, I'm like, wow, like that's interesting. So yeah, man, would love to have another conversation, man.
I'll let you have a copy. I'll send you a copy. I'm just having a little bit of a problem doing the audio recording because the studio, I can't get to the studio because of the lockdown. So I'll probably end up recording it here and then re-recording it in the studio once I'm able to. But I don't want to hold that up any longer. But as soon as I'll have it in a couple of weeks, and I'll let you have a copy. I'll gift it to you. Thank you.
I also think just on the content thing, people are a lot more forgiving nowadays when it comes to content, given where we are, and also what we see in our business, because we effectively are content creators.
I'm listening. I'm learning.
Yeah, if something is overproduced, to the listener, it's not believable. But if something is short and sharp and sort of behind the scenes, which is why Instagram stories and YouTube stories are so successful, because they pierce the veil, for the user, for the viewer. You can actually see the person at their best, at their worst, somewhere in between. Whereas everything that's overproduced, it feels like our mind goes into the state when we're watching an advert on TV.
Yeah.
It's like way. Yeah. So it's just something that we've seen through our sort of business and something I've observed. Anyway, use it, don't use it.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Hey, I've kept you, believe it or not, for almost an hour and a half. It's been great.
Awesome.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for everyone that's commented. Do check it out. Life Dynamics, so www.lifedynamics.co.za. Dude, love you long time. I'll let you go. Have a great day. May the force continue to be with you. Awesome,
God bless you all.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.